Hello, hello. How's it going?
Yeah, Jim. Yes, fine. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Have you been to the have you seen this workshop before?
No, this is my first.
Oh, sweet. We have a little bit of time, or instead of uh basically I got some of the accounts involved in the FTX thing, and so it's there are some new features in Etherscan that aren't in the last workshop, and um yeah, it's always fun tracking drama that's actually going on. So might as well check out some FTX addresses. Usually it's using the DAO's multi-sig for the workshop. So we'll start in just a couple minutes. All right, so PowerPoint coming through clearly.
Yeah.
All right, just adjusting my Streamlabs real quick. All right. Welcome to the How to Scan Etherscan workshop. Essentially, Etherscan is what's called a blockchain explorer, and each blockchain has a blockchain explorer, if not several. And all the blockchain explorer does is it's just a web interface to make sense of all the data that's actually generated when blockchain transactions occur. So right? So Ethereum blockchain uses Etherscan, Binance chain uses Binance Scan, Polyscan, Polygon uses Polyscan. Um, people can create their own blockchain explorers, um, but it's like, it's the public library for for your blockchain, um, and the interface essentially allows you, right? The only things that happen on blockchains are transactions. It could be an individual's address that's doing a transaction. It could be a smart contract that's interacting with a transaction. Um, like if something has to happen off chain before the on chain transaction happens, like that's not recorded obviously in the blockchain explorer, because it's just the things that are on chain, um, that are in these explorers. Uh, Now, these explorers do, they are websites, so we'll see some interesting features later. Um, but essentially, it's a blockchain explorer. So you either need the address, right? You can use the contract address of a smart contract or of a token. Um, you can use an individual's wallet address or an NFT. All these things you can ENS domains. All transactions have an ID or what's called a transaction hash, right? It's proof. Like if you want to see proof that this transaction happened. Um, and essentially what we're going to do is we're going to look at the DAO multisig, um, and do do do. There's a link to the DAO multisig right here. You can open it up and see the Gnosis safe, um, the contract address. You essentially type it into the search bar, hit enter, um, and then you're good to go. Let's pull this up real quick. And so the end of the URL in Gnosis, or I can copy the DAO safe from here in Gnosis. Um, and if I come over here to Etherscan, I can put the DAO address in here without the prefix. And then I can see here, so when I took this original screenshot of looking at the address, I don't have a specific date on this, but it was like a month and a half ago. And now, and we had 28 uh, Ethereum and a value of 37,000, US dollars in the multisig. Now we can see that there's actually 27 Ether, valued at 33,000. And we can even, and you can do this as helpful with your own personal wallet. But there's this drop down here for the address, and it'll tell you all the tokens, that are in that wallet and the types of tokens. So all this information is, viewable. And one of the things they did with FTX is that you can actually trace how the funds left FTX and went into different wallets from the exchange. And on some of these addresses, you can even see that they're tracking over to other bridges. Um, so these are all Ethereum addresses, and some of these addresses have accounts on other chains. Um, so that's something we'll look at a little bit more later. Um, but just to show you that Etherscan, right? It scans the blockchain. You just got to enter in some of the information that's on the blockchain, and you get all kinds of information back. Um, you can also see where things are interacting. So, right, when a transaction happens, there's a token, right, that has an ID. It goes from one wallet address to another wallet address. It could go into a smart contract, it could go into a multi-sig, um, but it also tells you when the transaction happened, and it tells you the value of the tokens that were in that transfer and even what type of tokens. So if we go back to the BanklessDAO multisig, um, you can see here that 15 days ago, almost 16 days now, um, they did a transaction. You can even export these as CSVs. Um, and of course, when accounts are associated with .eth domains, you can see that the .eth domain shows up. Um, so folks like Ice Cool, Red Band, these are all folks that are on the multi-sig. Um, you can see that they're executing a transaction to the DAO treasury. Um,
Sorry, Ernest.
this is probably the most useful. So I got this image is in the cheat sheet on the Notion page. If you ever need a quick reference, but essentially this just tells you what all the different fields are within, an Etherscan page. Um, as I said, you have a transaction hash, which is essentially a transaction ID. Every transaction on the blockchain has a unique transaction hash. Like DWork, for example, in DWork, when those DWork tasks are, minted as NFTs, there's always a transaction hash for that approval of whatever task item done in DWork. Although you're not going to see like DWork tasks on Etherscan. Um, I don't think. Actually, that'd be kind of curious to do some research on. I do know you can see it in OpenSea, um, but I know we don't pay any gas fees. So when we do the DWork stuff, so either they're handling all the gas, and we're kind of like within their system or something. But transaction hash, everything in blockchain has a transaction hash, proof that it happened, the transaction method, if it was a transfer or an approval, um, the block numbers. So in blockchains, right, transactions get batched in blocks. So every transaction is in a specific block on the blockchain. It's associated with a timestamp. And you got to remember too that like smart contracts, right? Since these are properties of the blockchain and public properties, when you're building software or applications, um, you know, you're using these properties in your code. Um, and they're very useful. Uh, Token transfer from, to, value, also fees. So there's some transactions within BanklessDAO for some of the organizational units where sometimes they might need reimbursed gas from uh, the DAO treasury. And so there's a form that you fill out, and you got to basically go to Etherscan, you know, show them your transaction, let them know what the fees were, and then the DAO reimburses some gas fees. Um, just like tokens, you can explore NFTs. Um, you're probably on your phone right now, so we'll not go through using Etherscan right now. I'll just continue to go through it. Is that cool? And then,
Yeah, no problem.
yeah, then maybe like at the end, we can go to Etherscan and maybe try, we'll see how it is on your phone. Um, but this way you don't have to like go back and forth from the presentation to Etherscan.
So is it this, Ernest, is it the same on mobile, on phone as it is on desktop, or is it slightly different?
I mean, it's just going to be smaller text that, on your phone. It's going to be exactly the same, but it's going to be, difficult for him to switch apps and copy and paste addresses into Etherscan. So I can do that at the end so that we can, we'll be at a point where we're not flipping back and forth between the apps,
Okay, got it.
right? Um, boom, boom. So I did, instead of, we can check out the DAO multisig later, but like I said, I found the FTX drainer accounts, and so I'll actually go through those in this example, and to show some of the new features of Etherscan.
Drainer account.
Do
What's
what?
a drainer? What is the drainer account?
The
FTX.
the drainer account. So essentially, right, there were funds on FTX exchange, and then the hacker
Mm-hmm.
came in and drained those accounts, to a specific couple accounts, and then drained those funds to specific accounts on the blockchain. And so those initial accounts on the blockchain that received the funds that got hacked from FTX are called drainer accounts.
Got it. So now people know the address. They don't know the person. Is it possible for them to keep track of the address unless it goes through Tornado Cash or something?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You can track some of these. They're tracking some of them to bridges, but there's a lot of yeah. I mean, it's like, and normal transactions, right? You don't usually don't know the person, but and we still don't even. I don't think they know the people, right? Like no one has a video of Sam doing this, right? Somebody did this to Sam. He made it very easy for this to happen, to his benefit. Um, but yeah, we can only track the addresses, and some of it will maybe makes it fiat, and a lot of it might not. Um, boom, boom. So uh, usually this is where we're looking at the bank token. Um, so let me grab. So this is these links are in the show notes, or not the show notes, but the Notion page. Um, Zach XBT is somebody that's been tracking. Actually, does investigations on all kinds of people, and posts it to Twitter. Um, so you'll actually lots of people on Twitter focus on just seeing like you know tracking people's addresses for various things. There's always scams happening. It doesn't have to be this huge FTX scandal. It can be 5,000 dollars or some other thing. So this Zach person essentially publishes these reports on chain abuse. Chain abuse seems like a website that tracks scams and has scam reports. And somehow, there's even a leaderboard for the people that participate in producing these reports. Um, but essentially, right, so they published the addresses. You have the main FTX account drainer on the Ethereum mainnet. You have the Solana account, and then lots of these accounts are on multiple exchanges, whether it's Binance, Polygon, or multiple chains. Um, they also have the Bitcoin addresses, so you can scan the Bitcoin blockchain as well. But if we grab this 0x59 on the ETH mainnet, we put that into Etherscan. So one of the things that we see that's different than the DAO multisig, so this is the DAO, and this is the hacker, right? So because this address is already known to be involved in crime and being tracked and stuff, Etherscan's actually flagged it. Now, this is not a property of the blockchain, but a feature of the Etherscan, public good. But they've flagged this as involved in being a heist, right? Like, like there's, go back, get the DAO multisig. Right? So the DAO multisig, it just states it's a multisig, it's a safe, multisig on Gnosis, but for the, so that's one thing that's interesting. Also, a new feature on Etherscan, you can now chat and message addresses. So they've integrated chat.wallet, I think. Um, but essentially, I can message, that wallet address, and they could theoretically check their messages and reply back to me. I can also, I could message the DAO Treasury multisig, or I could find, a transaction from Quiet Fox and message her. So these chat features don't, it's pretty new to see how that's going to be used. But
Do
that
you
is
have that?
also a feature that's part of the Etherscan site, not wholly like related to the block scan, the
Okay.
scan itself.
Anush, can I ask two questions?
Yeah,
Okay. First of all, how do you get notified that you have a message? Is there any
not
way to get notified, or you can only get it if you check your Etherscan?
yeah. Well, you would have to check chat.blockscan.com, and then
Ah, okay.
you would see messages here. Um, More than likely, what you'll see, things like the push protocol is developing ways to get notifications and give them to you in a better, from like multiple different places. So, you could just one day have a, notification in your browser that's like, oh yeah, somebody's messaged you, go to Etherscan and, chat.blockscan but yeah, there's no notifications per se. Um,
I can't think why somebody would use it except, in this case of the FTX drainer, that you want to message him to say that you are being tracked, own up your sins or whatever. What other
well,
possible use could that be? Could you have with the notifications though?
well, right now, right, everybody that's text messaging over their phones, there's very good probability that if not the actual message, that the behavior of messaging is being tracked and monitored by, whatever companies own your phone and the app you're using. And then they're using that data to sell you things and advertise to you and do other things when the idea is that in the future your messaging service would be tied more to a wallet address, and you would have a lot more privacy. It might not be connected to any personal data, you know so it's not, all this stuff is still being stored like on somebody's database somewhere. But the idea is that using your address can just give you more privacy, more security. It might lead to more spam, we don't know. So if we go down to the main bottom part of the Etherscan page, um, you can see the transfers. from the specific address. I like seeing the DAO multisig. Some of these things are more familiar. um, there's different tabs across the top here. So the initial tab we've been looking at is the transaction tab. You can also see the internal transactions within that account that you have. Um, you can see the type of tokens that are associated with that wallet address, um, and watch it move in and out of the treasury, so we can see that the USDC coin that's come in to the BanklessDAO treasury over the last week. We can see that there's some BED tokens, some GMI tokens, bank tokens, some other tokens, some DAI. Um, where seems like they've changed. Okay, I'll just keep going. Transfers. So they've actually changed the tabs. This is really odd. These things change so fast. This is really good that we do these things like every season. Because in the last month, it used to be transfers, holders, info, dex trades, contracts, analytics, and comments. And now they have in the transactions internal ERC 721 tokens. So they've actually broke, instead of holders, you have internal transactions. You have a breakdown of different tokens. You have the contract now for what I'm assuming it would be the contract of the multisig uh, that Gnosis generates, um, though not completely sure. If we looked at the bank token, it might be the contract of the bank token. There's lots of stuff that's more for programmers, but you can see different events associated with the multisig. Analytics, you can see what this is, just looking at ETH and USDC going into the multisig. Boom. Um, while So this doesn't show Dex trades anymore, but one of my favorite websites that is fun to look at other people's addresses with is called defined.fi. And I'll drop this in the water cooler chat, and this is on the notes as well. So this is the site that I always go to look at the bank token, because it looks at the bank token across dexes. And Mainly I use this because I can look at the bank token in its price relative to the US dollar or relative to Ethereum. So I can do both of those, but more importantly, I can see at the bottom who's buying and selling bank. And this is because they're pulling this information off of Etherscan and kind of condensing it, right? They're not showing me a bunch of the extra information that I don't quite understand. They're just showing me the information that I care about, which is who's buying, who's selling the token, and what address is selling the token. Um, I can even filter by the address, right? Or check this person's address to see, okay, this person, you know, they're in the BanklessDAO AV guild, they like crypto kitties. Um, they do use their wallet a lot. They might be traders, at least they're partly active. Um, Usually, what I'm looking for when I'm checking out other people's addresses is okay, does this person buy and sell, right? Or is this just like somebody that's just kind of heard about something and then bought their membership? But you can actually see that, you know, quite a bit of interesting history just from using other websites that are, using the Etherscan, the blockchain explorer. Um, Interaction with smart contracts. So one of the interesting things, and I don't know how to do this, but you can actually create interaction. You can mint NFTs from Etherscan. And in some NFT drops, actually, um, there's people that know how to do this, and they can actually get their transaction off before you when you go to mint NFTs. And then these people do this, they get hot NFTs and they flip them, and, you know, they get the gas price to go up, and it creates some interesting behavior, especially if you create some kind of NFT that's, in really high demand, or that you have a community that's really interested in, to have people be able to come in and just know how to use the Ethereum blockchain better and to be able to get things before you, um, is it's a little unnerving. Um, but you can actually interact with smart contracts and do things from Etherscan. Um, Again, the main cheat sheet for the properties on the Etherscan page are in the show notes, um, and that's essentially the how to Etherscan workshop.
Honest, I
Yes,
see a sign in. If you look at the page that you're in now, it shows a sign in. So is there any advantage to actually, I mean, having a sign in or registering? Do you see different things? Do you have to pay? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know. I don't think you have to pay anything, but when you right, so the information here for Bankless DAO, um, needs to be put in by somebody that is, so like the bank token. Let's see if I can find, if we go to, if we go to a bed token. So, the officials, the person, somebody had to put in what the official website at Index Co-op is. Somebody had to put in the social media profiles for the bed token. Um, there's some, I think I've seen with the Bankless DAO, somebody put in this image, right? That was somebody that logged in. So
God.
there's some information that's on chain, and then there's some information that's part of the features of Etherscan or whatever blockchain explorer that you're on. That data comes from people that log in and are however verified. I've never created an account for a blockchain explorer. And that also
This
I
is
used to see,
decentralized.
yeah, I used to see contract. um, I used to be able to tell how to interact with a contract. That might be something now that is, yeah. So I don't know if you need to log in to be able to execute, contracts from Etherscan, but that might be something that you have to log in for. Let's see. Look at the Bankless token. You can see the Bankless tokens that are in the DAO treasury. Where's the actual contract? Boom. See, here you can see everybody moving the Bankless token. Salmon's moving
So
some of his tokens. I moved some tokens yesterday. Paulito, he was doing something almost 24 hours ago. Um, yeah, any questions? Anything that you want me
wait,
to
wait, wait.
look for?
Wait, hang on. Just on
Mm-hmm.
that page, so it says uh, that particular hash came from the first one, from Salman
Mm-hmm.
to the Bankless DAO.
This is just the token, right? So
Right. So,
this, he came from Salmon, went to this contract address. I have no idea who this is.
to this, then why does it say Bankless DAO bank? Oh, the token
The
name.
token.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay.
We're just
I was
looking at the
wondering what.
token right now.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Yep. I switched.
Interacted with that contract, which is the bank token.
Yep. This
Yeah.
is just the bank token contract.
Okay.
Before we were looking at the DAO multisig.
Got it. Got it.
And this is the place that Salmon sent to. You get this kind
No,
of.
it says Bankless DAO. Doesn't make sense, does it?
Do what?
It says from Salman to Bankless DAO.
Um.
But it's a what do you call it?
Oh yeah,
It's a
here
address within. That's
it
what's
says.
confusing me.
It says, yeah. It says Bankless DAO bank token.
So it says to Bankless DAO bank token. What does that mean?
It's called the Bankless DAO bank token on Etherscan.
Correct. But it didn't. It said it should be to an address, right? You transfer from one address to another address.
Yeah, there's an address associated with BAM.
Why is the address not coming out? And the Bankless DAO is coming out.
It's this right here. It says Bankless DAO. colon
Token.
bank token.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
And
Okay.
but it is confusing. Um, you got to know whether you're looking at the a token or a wallet, right? Because it's always so at the top here, this is a token contract. Here, this is an address that was involved in a
Got it.
heist. And here, this is the Bankless token. Um, so if we look at just the Bankless token transfers, we can see Bankless token filtered by token holder, the BanklessDAO treasury. So that's because I started out looking at the DAO multisig. So if I start over and see how this works, and I go, so here's where I got the DAO treasury multisig. And I put that multisig, that wallet address in. I can see from the DAO multisig this is 0xF26 F26. I can see these are all the tokens in the multisig. And then 15 days ago, there was a transaction executed, and it went from this address into the BanklessDAO treasury. So this was an incoming transaction. This was an incoming transaction. This was an incoming transaction. You would think
So,
you'd
so,
be able to
uh,
see the outgoing transactions, but
so when you
mostly
say an
this, yeah,
incoming transaction to the Bankless DAO treasury,
yep.
like, so iSchool put in money into the Bankless DAO. I mean, he's probably the last
It's
executor of the multi-sig that put it into the treasury. How does that work?
well, so he could be part of an NFT project, and then that NFT project's generating some kind of revenue, and then that brings tokens back into the treasury. He could, um, so if we look at that transaction, all we know is that it came from iSchool transfer from to yes, yeah, you'd have to know what this contract was in order to know exactly what it is.
Mm, got it. Okay, so it's
Um,
knowing how to read the contract, isn't it, at the end of the day, which is
it is, but
coding.
yeah, it looks like 1.1 ETH went again. What is the F26 is? So this actually says that it was 1.1 ETH from the DAO treasury to this contract address, which it stops saying iced cool. Yeah, this is where it starts getting, like I said, I find this
You're
very
getting into the
confusing.
weeds, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And, there's lots of videos that go into more details on these. And, like, that's the main thing is that you got to go here and practice doing it. Again, generally, what I'm doing is I'm going to defined.phi and I am just using a very minimal set of data, right?
Yeah, this is a cool website, isn't it?
It is,
Very clear.
it's making, just simple use of the data. This is how this company, and actually this is, yeah, this is it just reads, it just reads price data off of blockchains on decentralized, on dexes, all the different chains. Um, but it just gives me more useful data. Um, but there is a lot of stuff here. The important things to know is, right, if you, the important things to know is what, search yourself. It's always good to know if you're aware of how much information about yourself is out there or not. Um, so if you all of a sudden think you're missing funds in your wallet and you don't recall, losing this, whatever funds that are in your wallet, make sure that you can at least understand your wallet in Etherscan. Um, if you're not sure if you got a wallet, if you ever reinstall MetaMask and you're not sure if you got everything in there, you can go back to here and find the tokens that are in that wallet. I got to go to Polyscan to find Polyscan stuff. I got to go to Binance Scan to find my Binance Scan, things, Etherscan to find my tokens on my ETH mainnet, but it's all there. And then this makes sense to me because I'm like, okay, I know I know what my DAO punk is, my DAO planet, my ETH names, um, these transactions make sense to me, right? Because they're coming from my personal address to Arrakis, right? I used Uniswap to sell some bank probably and swap it for Tether. You know, this month I used Sushi Swap. So now this looks much more recognizable to me because it's my address, right? And I can start, you know, I did a swap, I did a transfer. Um, I don't know what a multi-call is, but I did that. This is all when you're doing things and approving things, right? I added liquidity to Arrakis. I
It's like the history of what you've done, right? So it's quite good to know.
It is, and when you go to do taxes or something like that, like you're gonna use an app, not define.fi, but you're gonna use an app that simplifies, right? That app is just it knows how to read the blockchain, and then it gives you a user interface so that you can do your taxes, right? Um, I can
I think you
see,
guys in America need it because your taxes are so confusing.
yeah, yep. I can see my different
What is
open.
ERC1155 token?
Um, Good question.
721 is the NFT, isn't it?
Um, Yeah, view. Let's
Seven,
view the
seven.
NFT. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. So Pickle Finance, they had a contest. At one point, this NFT was worth $400 on OpenSea if I could have sold it. I can't believe I didn't try selling it. It's just a promotional NFT. Um, but yeah, and it says it's just the particular, you know, what is, um, it's a multi-token standard, which there's another EIP getting passed soon too. An Ethereum improvement proposal. Um, it's a standard where it looks like a contract can include a combination of fungible and non-fungible tokens. Um,
Oh, so it's just like a combination of the two then. ERC20 and ERC721.
yeah, so it seems like it can essentially, as an 1115, you can do either seven, either
Mm,
or both of the other standards.
got
Um,
it.
composability, I think, is what they call it, right?
Yeah, correct. Ah, learned quite a few things.
Yep. Um, and like I said, so you want to be able to understand your own wallet, and if you want to be able to understand a little bit about, what would happen if you had funds missing, right? There's nobody to go to. The first place you gotta go is to Etherscan, um, and then you go to somebody else, and you're like, "Hey, I found this transaction on Etherscan that I don't remember doing." Right? Just like with your bank account, if if you're lucky enough to have one, when the bank sends you your balance, um, and there's less or more money there, or your credit card statements. Um, Credit card companies and banks can roll back transactions, right? They can go to another store and take their money back if it was fraud, and then that other company's insurance, pays a claim on, for the fraud, and hopefully they find the person that does it. But you can't do that on the blockchain. Not most blockchains. There are some blockchains like Solana you were able to do that. But you can't roll back your Etherscan transaction. So if somebody gets access to your account and does a transaction, you can't do anything about it, except for seeing if there is a trail of breadcrumbs that may lead, to you finding where that went. And it's always good to be able to read a multisig for for your own group. Maybe that's what I'll do next time. Is I can pull up the Education Guild multisig. So I thought the Bankless DAO multisig, it starts to get things looking familiar, but my own personal wallet's way more sense than the DAO multisig. But maybe the Education Guild multisig would be something cool to check out next time.
Yeah, because we should be able to relate to that, shouldn't we?
Yep, and understand the
Okay, great.
transactions, and see what's in the multisig too. Again, the probably one of the most helpful things is that you can actually look into, um, let me Any questions? Any other ideas about um, what kind of who should we investigate next week? Who should we check out? We did salmon.
Poor guy.
Poor guy. He-
Actually, that's what I keep thinking. Why would you put your ETH address? Because it's basically announcing to the world who you are. I mean, isn't this pseudonymous? Wouldn't it be better not to have an ETH address? That's quite interesting.
well, so I have for the most part two main accounts in my MetaMask. One is my earnestofgaia.eth, which is not the one I'm generally using, oddly enough. Uh, it's the one that like I I I tuck things away, like NFTs that I know I'm never gonna sell or that I don't want to sell. Um, so my earnestofgaia.eth is a kind of social media profile in and of itself, and I don't think you would get a .eth domain, unless you wanted some kind of visibility, right? I mean, you could just want it because you want to interact with contracts and you want something easier than, a bunch of string of numbers on some website or something. Because there's some interesting things you can do with .eth addresses. But I think ultimately for .eth address, right? Oh, first thing you do is you update your Twitter and your Discord handle. And so
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a social thing, isn't it? Social
it's
presence.
it's a web presence, right? And then,
Yeah.
but the one I mostly use is actually my MamboDAO.eth domain, which should have been, is part of a different project, should have its own account, but it's just my work. It's just my work one, you know. Um, so so yeah, it is kind of weird intentionally putting, ultimately I want to sell the data, so I don't mind putting it out there because I'm trying to figure out how to sell my data and earn money. Like, that's called passive
Mm.
income generation.
Passive income. Yeah.
And it's going to get easier and easier. One of these days, like, you're just going to have a browser extension with a bunch of settings and you'll get a passive income if you know, because your social media isn't going to be in one platform, right? Etherscan is just integrating social media, right? And yeah, this is, you have to be in chat.blockscan.com to use the chat feature, but in the future, there's not going to be that distinction. You're just going to have chat embedded in things. And some things are going to be private and some things are going to be public. And some things are going to be gated by tokens and some by NFTs.
Yeah. It's just so nascent, this industry.
Yeah, it's so young too,
So yeah. But then this is where it starts, right? If you learn it in the beginning, you grow with it, you know how to use it, and it's not, how do you say, overwhelming, I think.
Yep. Well, it's the top of the hour.
Yep.
Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
so much, Ernest. That was really, really interesting. I've been wanting to come to this thing for a long time. Never had the opportunity. So here I am.
Welcome. Glad you did.
Th- Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Catch you around the Dow.
Take care.
Take care.